Today is a great freaking day. We're gonna do something that I've been excited to do for literally months, and that is start the final transformation on my 14 Heritage to a full-on Cholo style Vicla. So several months ago, so those of you that have been watching the channel for a while, thanks for coming back. Those of you that are new, hit the subscribe and a thumbs up and the whatnot, that'd be great. But several months ago, I started working on my 14 Heritage. And to tell the whole story, basically, this bike that you're currently clipped to, but I'll see in a minute, look at that. My father bought new in 2014, and he rode it for a couple years, and then needed to go to a trike for medical reasons. Not anything wrong with that. You guys have seen me probably work on a Triglide Limited, Triglide Ultra, whatever the hell it's called. Anyway, he stopped riding this, and we had put so many hours, blood, sweat, and tears, and bonding time over working on it that we refused to let it go. So it sat here in my garage for about 5 years, untouched, other than me starting it regularly and riding around the neighborhood and putting it away. Why did I not ride it? Well, it's a gray and silver. It had big fat white walls on it, stock bars. Wasn't crazy about the sound of the pipes. It just wasn't my style, but I wasn't gonna mess with it because it was his. Well, just recently, several months ago, we worked out so that it's mine now. So this is now my bike, and I could tackle it. He accepted it. He wasn't gonna ride it anymore, so I can do with it what I want. So what you guys seen me do, and I'll show all this in a minute, is we've done wheels. We've done some 19-inch apes. We've done some little dress-up parts here and there, and we've gotten most of the way. But what you guys didn't know from these earlier videos is that there had been ongoing discussions for how we were gonna do the body a long time ago. And how that went is, some of you know, my buddy is CEO at Advanblack, and he's the one that provides all the parts for my dressers. So the Dominator fender that we put on Olaf's bike and on my bike, and probably gonna do one of those again here pretty soon, and some other stuff, some color match parts, just really cool stuff. We started talking before I ever tackled this. He said, what do you want to do next? And I said, well, I've got, the old man's Heritage is finally mine, and I'm gonna go ahead and start turning it into something I want to use, which is sort of a West Coast Cholo style Vicla for bar hopping and stuff like that. And he says, really? Not like that. He doesn't talk like that. I do. And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, we've actually been thinking about designing some parts for Softails, and we had actually talked about testing the idea of a Cholo style rear fender, a stretched rear fender that would work on a Fat Boy or a Heritage or a Deluxe or whatever. And I said, well, yeah. And he goes, we already have all the paint. You guys know that. Advanblack does, like, I don't know, 90 colors or something like that. So they said, all these Softails out there, the owner might want to do that. We already have the paint. We already have the brilliance in-house to do it. We may just need to design a fender. And he said, so I'll send you a fender to match that bike you got there. And I said, well, that's not what I want. And he says, of course it's not. What are you after? It's always a hook. And I said, well, I want to go with a wild color. And it is a stock color that I want, but I want to go with a wild color, on the bike. I want to go with something that they came out with in 2017, a color I've been obsessed with since I first saw it, but they never did a Softail that color. He's like, what? And I said, hard candy, hot rod, red flake. And he was like, do you know what a pain that color is? Like, we do it, they do it. They do, tour packs and lowers, and they do the front rat fender and inner fairings. They do all that stuff in that color. He goes, but it's a hard color, which is why Harley, I believe, stopped doing it, because it costs a lot to do it. And so that's what I want to do. And he's like, well, let me think about this and how to make it right. So here, I'm already looking for like tanks and fenders, because what I didn't mention is that I had no intention of taking this body and having it painted. I was always gonna do a body swap. Why? Because again, this is my old man's bike. He won't be around forever, and I wanna keep every part that came off of it, put it up in the attic, in the graveyard up there. And if someday, many years from now, somebody wants to put it back to stock, I've got everything. I can see an American Pickers episode in my garage like 50 years from now. Anyway, so all this stuff's coming off the bike and boxed up, and I'm gonna go up into the attic so it's safe. So I never intended on just painting it. So he calls me and says, I got a plan, and I'm willing to do this, as a friend. And I'm like, what's that? And he goes, I'm gonna get you a tank and a fender, and I'm gonna have my boys do the paint. And that way, it'll all match perfectly. because you never know. Because you get a shop there, they might be good. You get a shop there to paint the body, and I get my shop to do my fender, and then it comes and they're not perfect match, and that's just more pain than I want to deal with. He goes, so I know my shop is perfect, so we're gonna do the whole body in that color, and I'll send it to you. So we went to work. We went to work looking for aftermarket front fenders to figure out what we're gonna do there, and all this other stuff, and we found one, got that. He came up with a tank for me, and his team painted the whole body. So what we're doing today to start off is we're gonna do that rear fender that his team designed and painted. And then next video we'll do in a couple of days, because I just can't do it all in one day with work and stuff, is the next step. We'll do the tank swap, and then finally we'll do the front fender, and then do a whole reveal of the whole bike. But first, let me take some of the stuff off, or let me just show you real quick where the bike's sitting right now. It's on the lift. So what we've already done, and what I did on myself before any of the body stuff came up, is these wheels are from Mototex. Ordered them off, that wheel off Amazon, then called them and finalized the details, and I'm really happy with it. So it's a Shinko 777 tire on it. Really like the wheels. I'm really happy with them. I think I paid right at $1,000 for that, and then another, I think, $8 for the 18-inch rear. I went to a local shop, chopper shop, good buddy of mine, and paid him to do the front forks. So they are now chrome because they were pitted. It's dirty as hell right now. Front lighting by Custom Dynamics, the Pro Glow, woo, lights that go around, and their turn signals. The brake pedal and shift peg and front floorboards are by JH Choppers, I'm sorry. Joel out of Illinois, a buddy of mine, online buddy of mine anyway, and he provided those. So you can see these are on, JH Choppers. They're badass, and he makes the rear pegs. I'll figure that out too. I started doing some brass stuff, so timer, derby, pivot bolts, axles. What else? I did these cool fender stay bolts and some other little things here and there. There's the 18-inch Mototex rear wheel. I've got the stock bags still, but they were converted to quick release a long time ago. So these come off and on in a matter of minutes, and they'll still work with the new body too. I've got a tour pack from Advanblack sitting on their rack that we're still testing. So it's another thing we're working on, is the ability to put a Harley dresser tour pack, whether it be a King or a Chopped or a Razor, on a rack and run it on a Softail. So you can see I've got sort of it configured as a sort of baby bagger right now. And then, incredibly thankful, my buddy at Dennis Kirk contacted Cobra and said he's building this Vicla, can you send him some fishtails? So these are the Cobra Bad Hombre pipes. I did that video too. Sorry for the stuff blowing all over the place. It's from the sea of boxes that body parts are, came from. So those are my Cobra Bad Hombre pipes that we put on as part of this, and then rear lights from Custom Dynamics also. So the bike's fairly tricked out, and again, all this stuff is quick release. So tour pack, bags, windshield, off in 5 minutes, not even. But you see more brass. Red spark plug wires I put on there is sort of a foreshadowing for the color it's going to be. Pro Beast Horn by Custom Dynamics. Yeah, so we already done a Mustang seat I picked up at Dennis Kirk, and the back seat, and then a buddy of mine here locally, a really good friend of my chapter, my organization, told me, named Gus, made this tank panel for me because I don't like studs, other than this one. So he made me a tank panel by hand, which I think is pretty slick. So that's the way the bike sits now, and that I'd already done. Now we're going to start the body swap. Sounds dirty. By doing the rear fender first. So this video, rear fender, because there's a little bit of work that's going to go into that, because this has custom lighting. It's got a recessed, it's almost flush mount license plate mount in there, kind of like the Dominator fender does. Some custom looking bullet style turn signals. Again, it's pretty badass. So what I'm gonna have to do is take off the seats, the tour pack, the bags, take out my fender stay bolts, unhook it, and take the whole fender off. It'll be a lot easier to do that and transfer everything over and sort of build the new fender as it's off the bike, and then marry it up and bolt it up. So let's get at it, because I'm excited. This is how excited I am to do this. I wasn't videoing anything, so let me back up a little bit. So what I've done so far is I've taken off my quick release bags. That's a whole other topic. I used Harley's quick release kit years ago to do that. The bike was maybe a year and a half old when we did that. Not a job for the faint at heart, if you're ever wondering, because you have to cut the back of the bags and put a new frame on them. So I'm not going to get into that topic, but just so you know, that kit right there is Harley's quick release kit. that you used to be able to get for Heritage. I don't know if it's still available. But anyway, what I've done so far is I took off the bags, took off the tour pack, and what you got to do now is unplug your lights. There's only one plug. This is your entire rear end. Anyway, it's your entire rear fender wiring harness is this one plug. So you just, you know, pinch here and bam, they unplug. That's it. The ECM, be careful with this. This is a very expensive part. The ECM is sitting in these like plastic teeth. So you just spread those apart, they pop open, and this is now free, you know, from the rear fender. And then this cradle here, you got that kind of a push plug thing that'll come out, and you're clear. So this, I'm probably gonna unplug my ECM, or maybe not. I don't know if I'll be able to get away with it or not. And just maybe just try and leave it plugged up, because what you don't want, and I've heard this horror story, this sucker make contact with the battery posts, spark, 1,000 bucks. So what are you doing there? Your bike's a paperweight. You're buying a $1,000 one from Harley, or a roughly same price one from Thundermax and get your bike tuned right. There's that. But be very, very careful with this. So once that's done, you basically have these 3 bolts here that's holding this whole assembly onto the bike. Wires, everything, turn signals, taillight, all that stuff's gonna stay on here, and I'm gonna take the entire thing off the bike and then use that to sort of plug stuff up on the new fender. Because again, new fender's gonna have different taillight, different turn signals, different license plate mount, you know, everything's gonna be different. So I'll show that in a minute. I know you're excited. Don't go ahead, hang out with me for a bit. We'll get this off and then I'll show you the new fender. Okay, so the 6 bolts out. From the factory, I can't remember if they're hex head bolts or Torx, or they might be Torx. What I had done is these sort of brass, you know, these guys, which are really cool and they look nice. But took those 6 bolts out, undid the plug, undid the little plastic clip that holds the ECM in. I'm lying, I pulled on it, it shot, almost took my eye out, and I gotta find that somewhere over there. But there is your stock fender removed from the bike. As you can see, it's one assembly. The wiring is in there, the lights, everything's still on there, license plate. You just take 6 bolts, take it off, sit on the floor, and now I can work on it as one assembly to switch onto the new fender, which, 3, 2, 1, there's a rock chair. Can you believe that? Look at the flame job. It's just, the dude just went wild and laid out nice long flames like I wanted. The taillight goes there, so they're gonna end just perfectly, right? Where you want them, right? License plate French is in there. As you can see, I don't know how well you can see in there, but the paint is flawless. There's fingerprints all over it because I've been touching it inappropriately. But it's just amazing. Really happy with it. So the chrome fender stays, and those mounting brackets are gonna get transferred over here. But then this, and the license plate I gotta get off. But this bike has its own wiring harness that was in the box. This fender has its own wiring harness that was in the box, which you're gonna tie in turn signals, which you're gonna relocate up on the fender stay, where they were on Fat Boys and stuff. It's gonna change the whole rear end of the bike. And I'll show you this lighting that it came with. This is all Advanblack's choices. Let me turn this off, I'll be right back, so all the stuff's still in the house. All right, let's get into this. Whoo! I'm too excited, so I'm like running back and forth. This is the taillight, which I freaking love. It's an LED, like almost a cat eye kind of design with 3M tape, so it's gonna be on there besides the bolts holding it. Again, I'm gonna add this again for the 1000th time. This is a pre-production kit. I don't know what is gonna come out, when it's gonna come out, what it's gonna cost, and what's gonna be included. This is what, you know, the boss over there, CEO over there sort of pulled together and we talked about and this, that, and the other. So this is what we have now. It might change a little bit. It might get better than this, I don't know. But we got the cat eye taillight. We got my wiring harness, which is gonna replace what's on the stalker. So I will not be using that wiring harness. I won't be using most of that, to be honest. I'll be using the license plate and the chrome fender stays and the heavy brackets under there that attach it to the bike. Other than that, like, nothing's coming over. It's all new stuff. These turn signals, I frickin' love these things. They're LED, but look at that, you can't see for the light. Let me get this around. They're an LED amber turn signal, but look at that. Look at that. They're frickin' beautiful. and they're heavy. And they're very pokey. Like, that's a legit point there. Pull them off, stab somebody. Anyway, so turn signals, tail light, wiring harness, new connectors for once you have fished that through. I'm going to have to sort of pin the connectors and plug that all up, which means knowing me that when I hit left, the right turn signal will turn on. We'll figure that out later. But yeah, so let's get at this and start assembling. I got bolts, new hardware. And one thing that's really cool I want to mention about this fender that I noticed, which I think is, I love the way they did this. They didn't drill the passenger seat bolt. But on the underside of the fender, I won't show you that, there's a perfect recess. So if you wanted to, and again, I don't know how the production version is going to go, but I could drill that hole out and put what they included in this kit, which is one of the nicest passenger fender bolt setups I've ever seen. Fender nut, fender bolt, fender, the thumb screw that holds your passenger seat on. I'm going to show you this because I think this is just beautiful hardware. So you got a nice thumb screw. Okay. Come out of there. Come out of there. Come out of there. And the stock one, there's a hole, and the plug goes up from the bottom, and a little plastic C-clamp just goes click, and that's how it holds on. That's what Harley Davidson does on the Softails, on the dressers, on all of them. So there's your Advanblack thumb screw that it came with. But look at this hardware piece. You got a rubber grommet, stainless steel, sort of a hollow nut. So what would happen is you would put this down through the top and then put the nut on from the bottom, tighten it down. It's just, I know it's silly to call that out, but that's better than Harley. Another thing they did, which I noticed, which is I think a huge improvement, is from the factory, you got this stupid thing. I've always hated this. So these plastic retainers are holding this like bracket that sticks up through the fender, and these plastic retainer washers are holding it from dropping through the fender. And you take, thumb screws, put your seat on. If these come off and that drops through that hole, ask me how I know if that can happen, you're in a world of hurt, because you can't really get your hands under that fender to put it back. I mean, I think I've done it, but there was blood involved and many a tear and lots of horrible things said. But so that sucks. What they did was electronically weld a nut into the fender, and the thumb screws are male. So instead of the post sticking up and your thumb screw being female and threading on there, they put a nut inside the fender, and your seat screws are male thumb screws like your back seat is. You know what I mean? So that's better. That's better than factory. So let me get to wiring this thing up, get it on the bike, button this up, and then maybe we'll upload this tonight and do a live premiere. So I gotta calm down. I haven't even had any energy drinks. All right, so I got the old fender torn down. So all I needed was those mounting brackets and the stays. So basically what you've got is the chrome fender stay bracket sits over that heavy bracket, and that's what actually attaches it to the bike. And you've got 3 bolts in the back of the stay, 3 in the front, and that's what mounts to the bike, and then da-da-da. So what I'm doing, I've decided, is seeing as how this is now going to be full on, bar hopper, maybe even put in some shows every once in a while. We'll see how good it turns out. Comment down below if you think it should. I'm going to eliminate my docking hardware for now. It doesn't have a hole for the back seat. I'm not going to drill one today. I'm going to sort of see if I can get by with this just being a bar hopper show-off bike. And I'm going to bolt up the stays with some nice chrome Torx bolts I found for now. And I've ordered another set of these, because they're all the same bolt, by the way. So another 6 of these brass bolts, so I can actually run 6 brass bolts along the fender stay. But those will be several days before they're here. For now, these will work. So I'm going to put all this together, wire up the turn signals, which I think use that far back hole there. Yeah. So seeing as how this is a prototype, there are no instructions and no instructional videos. I'm just kind of figure out where things are going to go. So far, no issues at all. But you can see I've got my license plate on and the tail light on. Looks great. And then we'll do the rest of it in maybe another, I don't know, hour's work. We'll have this on. Yeah, so at least we can see what the fender's going to look like. And then I'll do a next video on the tank, because side note, I've got a new gasket ordered for the plate that goes in the tank, because I don't feel like reusing the old one. So there's a plate under the speedometer that holds the fuel pump and everything down inside the tank, and I've got a new gasket coming for that because I don't want to reuse the old one. So that's going to be, the next thing will be the tank, which is a whole thing. By the way, if you want to know how to do that and you need it right away, look at Sick Baggers. Steve did a video on draining a tank. Did a great job taking the tank off. I'm going to go a different way, only because I have an electric pump that's going to do a roll to pull the gas out, but can't do any of that until I got the gasket, so let's just finish the fender for today. All right, so holy shit. It's not hard. That's not why I'm saying holy shit. It's not hard. It goes on, you know, it's just, it is a perfect stock swap, you know. As a matter of fact, there are some improvements that I'll point out right now. There's things that are a little better than stock. As always, they think about engineering where the wire pathing is that'll be more secure. I've said this before about the Dominator fender made by Advanblack, that like the stock Harley wires are like in there with like an adhesive strip on the center of the fender, and that's gonna wear out eventually, and they path it to the side outside. You know, some other cool stuff they do that I'm like, at least the tire's not gonna catch the wires better on this. Anyway, what they do, and I'll show you real quick. Pow. There should be like angels. I can't express how freaking badass that looks. These are on the way, so I'm gonna have some more brass bolts that'll replace these when they get here. I'm not gonna replace it. Well, maybe I will put the, I don't know, but at least those two more are gonna be brass, so it'll be a little more matched up. As you can see, the cutout for the tray is perfect. Those little gaps there are on stock too. So the tray for the ECM goes in there perfectly. Found the pin, it was that way. Put that in there, ECM's nice and snug. It's straight. You know, you can check the gaps and stuff. It's extremely substantial, meaning like it's not moving around, you know, any more than stock is or whatever. These lights are beautiful. These are metal. This is like aluminum, so they're not plastic or anything. These are plastic, but really thick. Like it's a real thick lens. I'll show you what the lights work. They're LEDs, you know. So that's how that goes. I had to actually take the time and check the pinning of the wires, you know, to make it work with a factory harness, and I did that. I don't know, again, this is pre-production. This is not ready to go out. Not even necessarily ready to go out anytime soon, but I don't know if you'll have to do that or not. All that stuff will be figured out. But the taillight, look at the taillight. You can't really get it in the camera very well. It's just such a, everything. I freaking love all of it. And I'd seen this, you know, as we were going through some development stuff. I'd seen photos of it, rough. I'd seen, you know, all kinds of stuff. But in person, I'm freaking blown away by this. The flames are exactly what I would want. You know? You can't see how much metal flake is in here. Oh, the light's on? Yeah, the lights are on that I got. You can maybe see it, but in person, this is just sparkling like a jewel. And again, the seat thing. Instead of there being that goofy bracket with a post sticking up, these are, I'll show you. These are threaded into the actual fender. See, down in there? So when you put your seat on, you're just gonna do that instead of fighting to get the mounting plate of the seat over the posts. You know what I'm talking about? Those of you don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I mean, that's better. The wire pathing is better. It's just, I'm blown away. You know, I don't know. I wish I had everything I needed to just finish. I wish I could just be out here till 3 in the morning and knock it all out. But what I was talking about earlier is I need a gasket that goes under the plate under here. So this all comes off, and then the fuel pump is down inside the tank, and there's a plate in there, and there's a gasket. And I just want to replace it. This gasket's 7 years old. Why not do the right thing? It's amazing. In my old age, I start doing things correctly. I don't know. But what the hell? Anyway, so I'm gonna do that. That ought to be here, I think, Wednesday or Thursday. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'll even do this tank swap and just wait to the last minute to do that last plate. It's not something that's going to stop me from getting the tank on it. The tank is, of course, the same color, flames and all that. But I'm not going to show you until it's tank day. All right? It's not tank day. It's rear fender day. So we'll do the tank, and then the front fender we got to go on there. Again, it's flamed up on the front. It's just compare that with that, and now you know what I was going for. You know, very stock Harley, respectable gentleman might ride a bike like that. Goddamn hooligan. That's what I was going for with this bike, and I think we're getting there. So, yeah, I'm not going to drill out that seat mount bolt. I'm going to leave it. As you can see, I've ditched my mounts for the bags. I'm going to leave it like that for now. I mean, who knows? Someday I can always do that. I can always drill that hole, take the fender off, 6 bolts, drill the hole, put the mount in, put the quick release mounts on so I can put the bags back on if I want to. But for now, this is about me or Mrs. Monkey enjoying a hooligan bike, and that's what we're gonna do. So anyway, so stick around for more we're gonna do probably this week, and we should get this knocked out by this weekend. Definitely gonna be taking this bike to Daytona. So in March, Daytona Bike Week, I'll be there at least the first half of Daytona, getting there probably around that Friday that opens with the 4th. Probably leave the following Wednesday, something like that, because I got the damn job and all that. But this will be the bike I'll be rolling around on at Daytona. So there you go. Take care of each other out there. We'll talk real soon. Bye.